if you have a business and the only place that you are showing up is on Instagram, or the only place that you're showing up is on TikTok, I implore you to go and develop or throw up a website for yourself, for your small business, right? And to share.
I'm sorry.
What?
I know you meant like throw up, like put it up.
Yeah.
But you had paused and you said throw up. And I was like, you want me to throw up? I'm not going to vomit.
I don't want you guys to vomit a website. I want you guys to build and to publish a website.
Okay. Hey everyone, welcome to the S.O.B Marketing Podcast, where we celebrate the S.O.B that you are. And if you haven't figured it out yet, we mean small-owned business. We don't mean S.O.B.
Listen, we know that as a small business owner, you are working hard on the daily to keep your business fully operational while trying to promote it. And while some days it may feel like the business is owning you, if we're being honest with each other, I bet you would admit that you wouldn't give up the insanity for anything.
Our commitment here at the S.O.B Marketing Podcast is to give you the real talk, what works when it comes to advertising, marketing, promoting your business, and then what doesn't really work.
And Chelsea and I promise to always keep the conversation real.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the S.O.B Marketing Podcast. S.O.B as in small-owned business, not S.O.B as in S.O.B. Really quick, before we get started, we just wanted to say thank you for listening. If you have any topics you want us to talk about, make sure to tag us or send us an email. We do see all of these, so we try our best to make sure that we're talking about conversations and topics that you want to hear. So, Vivian, what are we talking about today?
Chelsea, this is a very important discussion, and I hope that everybody is going to be, y'all don't need to take notes, but we just want to put a bug in your ear because we don't want you getting to the end of 2024 or the beginning of 2025 saying, those marketing sisters, Vivian and Chelsea, did not tell me about this big update that's going to be happening in the world of search engine optimization, also known as SEO. So we're going to have that discussion today to tell you guys. One of the big things that's going to be rolling out here soon, the world in terms of Google is going to be changing. And it's changing because Google is rolling something new out, which they're calling SGE, which is Search Generative Experience. And so what it's aiming to do is make the whole Googling experience way more intuitive. So if you guys are thinking how much more intuitive can it get, y'all, it's pretty impressive.
Vivian, last time I checked, there is not a specific date as to when this is rolling out. They're just saying sometime in 2024. Is that what you've been seeing?
Yeah. So here's the thing is the way they're kind of doing this right now if you use Google at all, if you have a Gmail account, and you use Google at all, you can actually sign up for it. So you can opt in to actually get the SGE on your version of Google. And so I did it recently, and let me tell you, I'm loving it. So
really?
Yeah, so it's something in the settings where you could go and change. And you guys, we actually did a YouTube video on this on our YouTube channel, The Seasoned Marketer. If you just type in there, search generative, it will populate the video. And in there, I tell you how to actually turn it on. So if you're interested in doing that, definitely do it. So it basically is incorporating AI into the experience, and it's making it way less manual for us to find the stuff we're looking for.
Yeah, I personally haven't tried it yet because I'm not going to lie, having to go through all those steps and like actually set it up and request that I can use it. I'm not doing all that.
It takes 30 seconds, not even 30 seconds, Chelsea.
I know. I'm still not doing it. You know what? As soon as they say you don't have a choice, then I'll do it. But until then, I'm not doing it. I also don't Google a lot of stuff. And this is actually a really interesting statistic that I'm going to be sharing on our social media sometime soon. But people have found that Google is becoming obsolete for Gen Z. We're not using Google.
So let's talk about that though, because if y'all are new here and don't know, Chelsea and I are sisters. We
Mhm.
are 15 years apart. So we have
Yes.
very different habits.
Mhm.
And that puts me at what? I'm 41 this year. Like, I use Google like a madman.
Mhm. Mhm.
Google and YouTube are my two
Mhm.
places. YouTube I go to for tutorials and stuff. So if I
Mhm.
want to know how to, change my oil, do whatever, I'll go to
Yeah.
YouTube. If it's something that I'm looking for that's just kind of broad in scope, I go to Google. So what do you do then?
So I do still Google things, but if I'm looking for like maybe a local place to buy something, I'm going to go on Instagram or on TikTok. If I want to know how to do something, I'm going to go onto YouTube or TikTok. Like Gen Z, they are using social media as their form of search at this point.
Interesting.
Which I think is part of the reason why Google is making all of these changes and is trying to step up the way that consumers use Google, because they're trying to bring people back and make the entire Googling process easier. Because Vivian, you've used SGE. You said you love it. Can you maybe explain a little bit how it's different from regular just Googling something?
So what it does is it essentially does all the heavy lifting for you. Whenever I go in and let's say I'm going to an event and I'm looking for a red cocktail dress. So if I type in there red knee length cocktail dress, it will then show all of the options. Now, here's the thing is, you're thinking, okay, well, Google does that anyways, right? You just click on the shopping tab. But because we live in the state of South Carolina, it's hot during the month of June. If I were to type in red knee length cocktail dress for Charleston weather during the summer, it then will just show me all of that information. So what it's essentially doing is it's hyper targeting and crawling the interwebs even better than before. And it's not going to show me anything that's going to have material that is heavy, right?
Yes.
So instead, it's going to show me all of the lightweight materials that the dresses are made out of. And so the reason I say that is because eventually that's going to change the way that, as a small business, you're going on there and you're describing your products, because the more information you have of the product itself. So for right now, if you're selling red cocktail dresses and you're just saying, red knee length cocktail dress, but you're not including the type of material it's made out of, this and that, then you're going to be missed in some of this more intuitive searching.
I think it's really funny because I just said I'm not going to set up this SGE thing until I have to. Tim and I were talking about this. I went on a whole long rant about how cool this is and how it's going to help consumers and all this stuff, and here's why Google is doing it. And I think it's really cool, and yet I'm not going to use it.
Yeah, and it helps. Okay, so I'll give you another example. I live out in the country and we have chickens.
Yep.
Setting up a chicken coop is very intense in the sense that you want to think ahead. All right, so if I were to go onto Google with this SGE option and I type in, I would like to create a chicken coop on half an acre of property, and then I would say, can you lay out the steps from A to Z or all the considerations? It will, instead of sending me, because right now Google feels clunky. So what it does is Google will take the words and stuff and they'll scan all the blog posts, all of the videos. They scan for those keywords, right? And the more kind of keywords you have, the more traffic you have, because it's telling them this is a viable source that has good information, right?
Yep.
It's going to list you at the top. And so then as a consumer, as a Googler, I go in there and I'm like, I probably have to click on 4 or 5 of those links at the top, and then I'll find what I want, or I'm piecing it together. So this blog may have something about hey, here's how you plan the space ahead of time. The other
Mhm.
blog may say, here are the materials and here's how you actually like build the coop, right?
Mhm.
But what it does with this SGE option is it will take all of that and pull all of the information, give you one concise answer at the very top. So you don't even have to scroll down to the bottom if you don't want. You're just looking at the top. It's consolidated. It's in a conversational pattern. So it's not just like, here are steps 1, 2. It will say to me, if I tell it that I live in South Carolina, it will tell me at the top, because you live in South Carolina, here are considerations you need to take into account before you build your chicken coop, right?
Yeah.
And then it will tell me like the sources off to the right. So it's saying, hey, we consolidated all of this up for you. We packaged it nicely in a way where you can read it really quickly. And then here to the right, we have, all of the sources.
Yeah.
And so instead of you having to meal piece it, it's doing
Mhm.
that for you.
For you. Yeah. And isn't it true that, let's say you have a follow-up question, there's going to be a second dialog box? So like you can just continue having the conversation with Google?
Yeah. So the really cool thing is they preemptively, okay, so take my chicken coop example. At the bottom, it's going to have these little buttons, and the button will have a plus sign, and then it'll say, so the header will say, other questions you may have, right? Or something that are related. And then it'll have that little box, I'll have a plus sign, and then it'll say, materials needed for a chicken coop. Plus sign, how long does it take to build a chicken coop? And so what it's doing is it wants to keep you engaged, and it wants to give you all the information you need right there. And so it's saying, hey, because you asked about this, we know that a follow-up question you may have is this. And if you click on it, it'll have the answer for you.
It's so cool. I think it's so interesting, so cool that they're doing this. But why are we talking about it here at the S.O.B Marketing Podcast? Because that's going to drastically change how you've created and set up your website. And this was part of the conversation I was having with Tim when I was all heated about this, because I thought it was so interesting. But I was telling Tim, as small business owners, sometimes we can forget that Google is a business as well.
Yeah.
Their responsibility is to take care of their consumers. So they're not necessarily thinking, how is this going to affect the businesses that are a part of Google? They're thinking, how can I make the consumer experience easier, simpler, and just give them a better experience?
I guess maybe my perspective is a little different, because I do think the consumer is driving it, because like you said, they probably have seen that same statistic, and they have seen the patterns of a younger generation who is not opting into Google. But I also want to say, I don't think Google is hurting for anything. Let me tell you why.
Okay.
Google at its base has the most comprehensive and in-depth data on consumers, period, end of story, because Google actually owns YouTube. Okay. Those are the two biggest search engines. And so if you don't think that they don't have all that data on top of it, if you run Google Ads as a small business, that is all information. You know what type of information you're putting in there. You're putting information on keywords you want to target for your Google ad. You're putting in information on the demographics of the people you want to target. They have all of that data on the back end. So as far as being able to, I think no one is better suited than Google to be able to leverage AI in this fashion. So I guess to a small business owner that is listening to this today, the biggest thing I want you to walk away with is, if you have a business and the only place that you are showing up is on Instagram, or the only place that you are showing up is on TikTok, I implore you to go and develop or throw up a website for yourself, for your small business, right?
Yeah.
And to
I'm
share
sorry. I
what?
know you meant like throw up, like put it up,
Yeah.
but you had paused and you said throw up, and I was like, you want me to throw up? I'm not gonna
No.
vomit.
I don't want you guys to vomit a website. I want you guys to build and to publish a website,
Okay.
activate a website, launch a website for your small business, because this is going to help you whenever Google, because let me tell you what's going to end up happening. Right now, Vivian can go in there and activate this SGE because I want to see the experience. I want to see how it's packaging the information, because I feel like it's our responsibility as marketers to understand how it's using the data it has to show us results now.
Yeah. And see, we're a pair, so I just let you do that part.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, I let you do all of the posting for our social stuff, so like I'm good. We tag team stuff.
Yeah.
But so the thing is, eventually that's not going to be an option. So to you, Chelsea, great, you don't want to sign up for it or go through the steps to actually do it. But what's going to end up happening is right now it's kind of in this, it's not even beta testing, but it's kind of in a beta testing, right? They're working out all the kinks. They're seeing how it works, how efficient it is. Eventually that's going to be the new Google.
Yeah.
Right. So this old Google so if you guys are doing keyword stuffing on your blogs or stuff like that, that's not going to work in the new Google SGE experience.
Also, you just shouldn't be doing keyword stuffing already, but well,
legit.
it's okay. Yeah.
So think of it this way. There's a countdown going on, and eventually SGE is not going to be a feature. Search Generative Experience is not going to be a feature on Google. It's going to just be Google.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd like to say, okay, I'm not using SGE as a consumer. I write all of our blog posts. I've changed the way that I write these blog posts so that our website can actually benefit from SGE. So even if you're not using it as a consumer, if you have a website, and that's what we want to talk about, if you have a website, there are certain things that you want to start doing so that you can show up at the top of these queries.
Yeah. All right. So Chelsea, do you want to go ahead and get us started on that convo?
Absolutely. I would love to. One of the biggest things I've been doing since I write our blog posts is at the beginning of the blog post, that first paragraph is going to be a synopsis of the entire article. Why am I doing this? Because like you discussed, for SGE, what they are doing when they answer your questions, your search query, is they take and consolidate the information that you're looking for into a paragraph at the top, correct? If I can go ahead and write a paragraph that consolidates and answers your question, maybe they'll just pull my paragraph.
So you know what this reminds me a lot of is
what?
Press releases. The sign of a really well-crafted and well-written press release is that the reporter ain't gonna change a darn thing about it. So my thing is like, the more time I spend, because some people are like, oh, you don't need to spend. No, the more time I spend on this press release and actually nailing it down, the easier I make it for the people at the news outlet to just copy and paste it. So that they don't need to, if I have all the information in there, like you said, they will just take it. And so very similarly, Google, if you write a rock star first paragraph that has a synopsis and is clear and concise and easy to read, then they will likely just republish it as is.
Absolutely. Also, actually answering a specific question. So instead of keeping things broad, like let's say I write a blog post about SGE, I don't want to just say SGE article. I want to actually answer a specific question like, how does SGE work? Or when is SGE rolling out? Not that one, because I don't have the answer to that. So that would be misleading, and you would also get dinged for that.
That's right.
Exactly. But actually answering a specific question, because that's what Google wants to do now with this search generative experience. They don't want to give you broad answers. They want to specifically answer your question so that it makes it as easy as possible for you as a consumer.
And if you guys need an analogy just to drive this home, look at it this way, right? So if you're a little confused with or intimidated, if you're a little intimidated with search engine optimization and you're like, there's just so much competition out there, Google is the matchmaker.
Yep.
All right. What is the purpose of every matchmaker? It is to find the absolute best fit for the person that hired them, right? So the thing is, if I'm going and I'm like, hey, I'm looking for a gentleman that fits, for a lifetime partner that fits these things, right? These are the qualifications they have to have, or these are the must. If the matchmaker is any good at what they do, they're not even going to put in front of me anybody that doesn't fit that, right? Because that's just wasting everybody's time, right? And they want, ideally, they want to get a good review, and they're thinking, I really am doing my job by getting them the best, most suitable candidate for them. Google does the same thing. So if you are keeping things broad, like Chelsea said, they just aren't even going to put your stuff out there because you're not answering any type of question. Like what would you be a good match for? What would somebody be putting into that Google search bar to even have your listing show up? That's why the more hyper specific you can get about stuff, the better it is.
Absolutely. And can I just say, keyword marketing changes pretty often, if we're being honest. Pretty often, really at the core of it, what you need to focus on when you're writing blog posts, when you're creating content for your website is, are you writing in a way that actually makes sense, that's concise, that your information is useful? Are you misleading people? The answer better be no. Don't mislead anyone. Don't be promoting answers that you don't actually have the answer to. For SGE, we don't actually know when it's going to be the only option. So I better not be writing an article saying, here is when SGE is going to be the only option. Google's going to hate that.
Yeah, one of the examples that I've heard people use before that really I think is a good example is, if let's say you write reviews for movies and you are trying to be a little clickbaity and you're saying, when will the next, Marvel, this and that movie be released? Well, Google, because they have all the information, knows if you're saying you have the answer to something that all of their data is telling them no one has the answer to, because they're not even, they're not even at point A yet, and you're claiming to have a point Z answer. They know that, and they're just not going to recommend your stuff, because what ends up happening, there's nothing worse for Google at this point than when they show somebody an option, that person clicks on it and immediately comes off of the web page because they can't find their answer, or it has nothing to do with it. Because what that signals to Google is, you're the worst matchmaker ever.
Yeah.
Like you sent me to a site that has no information. It doesn't have the answer I wanted. And then, to your point, you have a whole group of, I don't want to say kids, you guys aren't kids, but you have a whole group of like younger people that already are not naturally inclined to use Google. And if the only time they go to Google, you don't give them good information, they're going to think your stuff is trash. So why would they do that? They are on the exact opposite. They're like, let me be the best matchmaker, because that's the way people are going to continue using Google. And
yeah, I have an example of this. The Netflix show Young Royals. I watch it. Season 3.
Give me a synopsis, because I've heard of it, but I don't know what it's about.
It's so good. It's Sweden? Is it Swedish? I don't remember. It's one of those. They have a king, right? They have a monarchy. It's the prince and some like random guy. Like, they both go to private school, but like he's at private school for like on a scholarship or something. So he's like not rich. He's like eat the rich kind of person, right?
Okay. They
fall in love. And it's a whole thing, because first off, they're both guys, and he's a prince. Princes can't be gay.
Right.
It's a whole thing, and it like follows their entire like relationship. It's 3 seasons. The finale came out the 18th.
Mm-hmm. Of
if
March?
You know anything, yes, of March.
Okay.
So like it came out Monday.
Okay.
If you know anything about me, I don't like not knowing what's going to happen. So I watched the first episode and then I said, look, if they don't end up together, I don't want to watch this. Like, they have to end up together. So I Googled it.
Okay, so can I stop? Can we put pause right here? Because what I want to point out is that Chelsea is the kind of lady that reads the last page of a book first.
I 100% do. Not
so
always.
Annoying. Oh my gosh, I feel bad even like skipping 2 pages ahead. I'm like, no, wait.
If something's not going to end the way that I think it should, I don't want to watch it. I don't want to read it.
Didn't you tell me one time that it actually gives you anxiety not knowing?
100%. I have to know.
That's so weird.
I wasn't going to watch this entire season, like 8, 9, I don't remember. I think 8 episodes. I'm not going to watch 8 episodes and freak out as to whether or not they end up together or not. No, it makes me anxious. I need to know.
Tell me you're a control freak without telling me you're a control freak.
My point is that I Googled it literally the day it came out. Like, because they had split up the finale. So the day that the part 2 of the finale came out, I looked it up. I said, do they end up together? And there was only one article that had the answer, because it was like posted 16 hours ago, right? So someone had like binge watched it and immediately written the article. But they were like, yes, they end up together. And I was like, okay, now I'll watch it.
But so had that one article not been there when you searched it, then it just wouldn't have pulled anything up.
It was pulling up things that had happened in part 1.
Yeah. So technically it was the finale.
Yeah, because that technically was the finale. But there were no other options that actually like said, oh, they do or they don't end up together.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so
and they just real quick, they end up together. He gives up the he abdicates. Is that what it's called?
Gives up the throne.
Yeah, he gives up the throne to be with him.
So let me get this straight, because this is like fascinating me.
Okay.
So you watched season 3, episode 1?
Yes, I watched 1 episode out of 8. And there was a bunch of stuff happening, and I was like,
but you watched season 1 and season 2.
Yes, I had seen season 1 and season 2.
Well, see, that's the whole thing to me, is like, you were already invested. Why would you not watch the last season just because they didn't end up together?
Yeah, because then they did it wrong. I don't want to watch them do it wrong.
Oh my gosh, you are... I think the more you live, Chelsea, the more you're going to find. I think that's going to go away eventually, because to me, I'm watching The Bear. Do you know what that is?
Yes. I haven't watched it, but I know what it is. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I'm like so in love with it. But here's the thing is the episodes are weird, and it doesn't like make the storyline makes sense, but it doesn't make sense. Like, it's just kind of like I don't know, like what do you call it? A mixed bag of like random stuff. And so that's the kind of stuff I enjoy, because I feel like that's life in general. Like, like it never follows a clear storyline. To me, things are always left undone, or things don't have like a tidy end to it.
Sure. Well, let me explain it like this then. I, as someone who has grown up in the digital age, I have so many options, right? Of things to do with my time, of things to watch, that it gives me anxiety. There are too many options. Mm-hmm. So
you're overstimulated.
Yes. So I am very particular and very specific about what I spend my time doing and what I choose to enjoy.
You know what the solution is? The prescription is to overstimulation. Move out to the country with your sister.
I'm already there.
I don't think Tim
would enjoy that, though.
Yeah, true. True that. Do you love making crafts and working on your small business but struggle to get them in front of customers?
Do craft fairs, events, or pop-ups leave you feeling overwhelmed or frustrated?
Introducing Rock Your Fair, the course designed to help you succeed in the world of craft fairs, pop-ups, and events created by two marketing professionals with over 15 years of experience. Rock Your Fair is perfect for anyone who's new to the game or just wants to step up their game.
Our step-by-step approach will guide you through everything you need to know, from choosing the right events, to setting up your booth, to marketing your products effectively.
And you know what? You'll also get access to us for personalized coaching and feedback so you can put your best foot forward.
Do not let craft fairs, pop-ups, and events hold you back. Sign up for Rock Your Fair today and start rocking your way to success.
For a limited time, get access to our free mini course. Simply head over to our website at www.theseasonedmarketer.com and click on workshops. All right, so getting back on track with this SGE, we took a hard left turn there.
We sure did.
All right, so what's another thing that people can do with their search engine optimization to start preparing? And I do want to put a little asterisk here for you guys. If you're saying we don't expect that you start making these changes like tomorrow, right? But what we're saying is if you know that Google is changing the way that they are showing information, that the way that it's showing search results, and eventually we know their end game is to make that the overall Google experience, we think that in 2024, you can start to make these pivots with your blog post, with the type of information you're sharing about your industry or about your products and services, so that when the time does come and they roll it out to all Google users, you're not caught with your pants down, because there's nothing worse than that, right? So, so the small changes and pivots that you can start making, because it probably will take a little bit of practice. Right, Chelsea, as someone who does our blog post, it takes a little bit of practice to get the hang of things, to be like, okay, now I know how to just concisely write that first paragraph in 3 sentences, right?
Exactly. And I think a big thing, don't focus on the keyword, which is something that keyword marketing kind of, I don't want to say it's misleading, but like keywords are important. But we say it all the time, don't do any keyword stuffing, right? So like where do the keywords actually lie? My point is, if you're writing articles or blog posts, yes, the keyword is important, but with SGE, it's going to really be the question that's most important, is answering the question. And so finding out what your consumers are interested in and what questions they have, it's going to be the most helpful thing that you can do.
The way to go, yeah. Well, and certainly, I, like you, I think keyword searches, keyword SEO, all that stuff, I think it's the lazy person's way of doing SEO. And the reason I say that is because to think that you can rank for the term mozzarella cheese if you just reiterate the word mozzarella cheese, like the phrase mozzarella cheese, like 20 times in your blog post, is stupid to me. Like, you know, because as a consumer, I have opened blog post and noticed when people do that. Like, I can tell when it's not going to give me the information I want, but instead it's just continuing to reiterate the same word because it wants to rank higher. Now, another tip here that we have is, we do know, and I have read that with Search Generative Experience, Google likes list. Okay. So if you're teaching someone how to do a how-to, like I use that chicken coop example, if you are a farming lifestyle blog or whatever, right? And you have a blog specifically on how to build a chicken coop, bullet pointing the steps, step 1, step 2, because then Google is able, like you said, if the information is solid enough and the process is concise and it's the best written process, they're going to take it and put it at the top. In their, as part of their, what do you call it? As part of their result.
Response.
Response.
No, that's a wonderful point. And really, in terms of SEO and with your website and everything, just wanting to reiterate, it needs to actually sound like a human.
Yeah.
It needs to actually make sense. None of this keyword stuffing. Don't create a list just to create lists just because we just said that it'll help. It needs to make sense. Because, like you said, Google's a matchmaker. They only want to share things that make sense, that are actually going to help the consumer.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting. And I do want to backtrack just a little bit because I don't know, we just touched on this, but I don't know how clear we were in expressing this early in the episode. Search Generative Experience. The way to think about it is when I go to Google and I type something in there, how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. The way Google is using the AI is to generate AI's own response, right?
Yeah.
And so the key here is if you get part of your content pulled into that AI response that Google is generating, that's what you want.
Yeah.
Because then it's going to at the top tag your blog post, your website, your whatever it is that it's, referring to. And so I think that was, I don't think I clarified that well enough. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah. And also for this new SGE, Search Generative Experience, isn't it also going to have carousel links on the side?
It does. So it will, that's where it kind of like shows you the reference, right? For where it pulled all of this information together. So it gave you a concise response, the AI response, and then on the side it's showing you, but it does show you like the first 3 and then you keep scrolling and it shows you the rest of them. So ideally, if you guys are doing really great SEO, eventually that's where, you'll be able to
end up show up. Yeah, exactly. I have another tip specifically for products, and I think you've already mentioned this. We've already talked about it a little bit, but I just want to reiterate, being as descriptive as possible for your products is going to help you as well, because Google wants to show consumers the best product for what they're looking for, right? They want to get real specific, real nitty gritty about it.
Yeah. So I would say, Chelsea, for product descriptions, like we said, sizes, colors, materials, stuff like that is definitely stuff that you're going to want to include in there. Shipping details, all of that, because the other thing is, it could be that what's going to end up happening, and this is going to be kind of cool to really see. There's this thing now where, people used to use short phrases to look things up in Google, and now they're using much longer phrases. What's going to happen with this SGE is I'd imagine that's going to get even longer, because if I know for a fact, like I told you with that dress example, if I know for a fact that I can get really good results, that this SGE is going to give me really great results if I give it as much detail as possible, I'm going to be putting all kinds of details in there, because that's what, and I don't know about you with ChatGPT, Chelsea, but like I do this with ChatGPT. Once I kind of got the hang of it and I was like, wow, the more specific I get with ChatGPT, where I tell it what tone of voice I want it to write in, when I tell it, here's all the information I want you to include in your response to me. I mean, it gets really, really good. So it's going to be interesting to see how people are going to start feeding this Google search engine.
Yeah, because they are using AI. Google is using AI for the SGE, and that's exactly how you need to be talking to these AIs. Get as specific as possible, because when you give them more information, they can give you a very clear, concise answer.
Awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
Yay. I think the other thing I don't want to gloss over is, and this is a very easy thing to do with this SGE, don't forget that you guys can go in and actually input or refresh your links in Google, right? So if you have a sitemap, let's say that you have a blog and you haven't like updated it lately or whatever, be sure that you're after you customize this. So if you're taking Chelsea's tip and you go back into your blog post and you change it to where that first paragraph is going to be a overview a concise overview of what that blog post answers, then you want to be sure that you go back in and resubmit that link or your website to Google so that it updates what it's crawling instead of having your old one, right? Because otherwise it still may be refreshing to your old page.
Yeah, exactly. That was a really good point. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, just anytime when you're updating, you're going in and you're updating blog posts or doing stuff like that, you just want to be sure that you're giving Google, you're giving them the correct sitemap, or you're giving them the best information, the most updated information that you have. And I think that's one of the things where we probably don't fixate on it enough, because I mean, we're small business owners. Once we get a task done, we mark it off, we check it off and move on. And so they'll listen to this episode, they'll go tweak things, maybe one or two things, and then they won't go in and resubmit the link because you're thinking it's already, I just updated it. Do I really need to do that?
Yeah.
And the answer is yes, you do need to do that.
Yes, exactly. Perfect. Okay, Vivian, I think we have shared all the information we have about SGE and what small businesses can do to prepare for the future, because this is coming. Google at some point is going to force everyone like me to use SGE. So it's really, in the future, something that you should start thinking about now so you don't, like you said, get caught with your pants down. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed it, if you know a small business owner who would really benefit from this conversation, send them this episode.
If the only action you guys take from today is, I would say, go turn on that SGE feature. So all you have to do, seriously, just put in Google, do Search Generative Experience, Google, and it will pop it up and it'll tell you how to turn it on. And the reason I say this is because I think as a small business owner, it's very valuable to see what it's to use it. And so then on the back end, even if you're not changing anything you're doing with your blog post or your website or your product listings now, right? Just take that first step, start using it so you could see how it works. And then that's going to make you an even better small business owner to be able to help you boost your SEO here in the future.
Absolutely. Okay, fine, Vivian. I'll go update my Google.
Listen, it's fine. I got it. We work as a team. I got it covered on our end. Just know that you will not be able to stop this change from coming, Chelsea. When Google rolls it out.
I know. And that's fine. Again, I love it. I think it's a great idea. So why don't I just do it? I should just do it. I know. Fine. You've convinced me. Well, thank you for listening to this episode. Make sure you subscribe or follow, leave a 5-star review.
Only 5 stars.
Platform. Only 5 stars. We won't accept anything less. And go be the best SOB you can be.